Well, back in the studio here with me, Stevie Evans, Heather Smith's here, and Georgie Peterson and her mum Jackie are in. Now, a little bit of background about our guest this morning. Now, Georgie was born and raised in Liverpool. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree in English and a strong background in performing arts and working with children. Now, in her late teens, Georgie was diagnosed with a rare brain disorder, which she'll tell us all about very shortly, and that changed everything. She continues to this day to face many obstacles, but considers herself lucky. She's very creative, and to be alive and to be surrounded by such great people, she's very, pleased about. The book Freaks Like Me, which is memoirs of Georgie, is all about, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm sure Heather did as well. But first and foremost, a very good morning to you, Georgie. How are you? Are you all right?
Fine, thank you. How
Good.
are you?
I'm great, thanks, and thank you so much for coming in all the way over from Liverpool. And I know you encountered some traffic, or your mum Jackie did today. Morning, Jackie. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. And yes, you struggle with the traffic and 35-minute delay there in the coming out the tunnel, was it? Wow, right. Heather, good morning finally to you. How are you?
Yes, good morning. I'm fine, but because of the trouble with the tunnel, I got here really speedily, actually, because nothing was on the motorway.
I thought you were going to meet me at 8:30 in Fir Trees.
No, I thought it was after 8:30. I still had my breakfast.
I'm always here at 8:30, usually anyway. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We're all here. We all got here early in the end. Yeah. So, Freaks Like Me is Georgie's book that she wrote last year, I think it was. Heather, why don't you take the lead and go ahead with your questioning, because I know you prepared a little bit better than me, since you were the last one to read the book. I read it about a month ago. You've just recently finished it this week, haven't you?
This week I finished
Right, so go on, over to you.
Okay.
Over to you.
So, I've read the book, Georgie. Freaks Like Me. It's a really eye-catching title.
Yeah.
Can you tell us why you chose that title?
Yeah,
please?
everyone asks that. So I had what's it, EEG? What, the wires on, which I've had in hospital and ambulatory, where you just walk around and you've got them on. And when I had them on, everyone was really nice. A few people stared and were kind of a bit, looked at me funny. And I just remember this one girl, she was a teenager, it was just around where we live, and she went, "Oh, she looks a bit freaky." And that was it. And I never really thought much of it. And then when I finished writing the book, I didn't have a title. I couldn't think of anything good. And then that just came back into my head, that comment. And I thought, well, I'm going to make it positive.
Yeah, because we ought to explain to the listener that, in fact, the cover of the book is a picture. You describe the picture, because you know about the test.
Well, it's not me, but she is blonde.
Oh, isn't it? I assumed it was you taken about a few years ago.
It's just computerised.
Oh, right, okay.
I think, anyway.
But it's very similar to you.
You know what? I was convinced it was you, and then I saw your picture on your website, which is how you look now with the glasses, and I just presumed that you'd altered a little bit. But no, it looks very similar to you, I thought. Yeah,
I did too.
Yeah. I suppose so. She's prettier than me.
Oh, rubbish.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, so it's basically half of the face of a girl is kind of normal makeup, and I hate the word normal, but normal makeup, that type of thing, and then the other side has got all the wires, like when you have an EEG, and it's also kind of broken, and to show two sides of, I guess, what you don't see.
Yeah, you
illness.
You almost look healthy on one side, and you've said it, broken on the other, if you like. Yeah, which is right, isn't it?
That's a good way of describing it. Now, when you look at the book's divided into 4 sections. It's divided into before, during, after, and now. And what I'd like to do is ask you a few questions, Georgie, about each section. Okay, now, before all this happened, your great love was what? Dancing. Absolutely. We've been talking about Strictly as well, haven't we?
Yes. I love Strictly.
Yeah, and dancing just became your life, didn't it?
Yeah, I did a lot of hobbies, and I loved all of them, but just gradually over time, and as you progress in dance, you it takes up more time. And then I got asked to help, which was the first time with little ones, and that was incredible. So that was even more time, and it just became basically life was school, come home, get ready for dance, go to dance, and that was it.
Okay, and then if we fast forward it to round about when you're 17.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking forward to going to university to study English.
Yeah.
Yeah? Now, we come to the during section, and I'm just taking a sentence out of your book. You describe it as your life changing in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Can you remember much about that first seizure?
I don't remember much. I always tell people I remember the fear. I remember feeling so scared when I opened my eyes. There was just when my vision came clear, there was just paramedics and there was my family, and they were either crying or they looked terrified, and that's what I remember about.
Okay, and that was
and the pain.
Okay, and that was in the May, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Before you were due to sit your A levels.
Yes.
Okay.
Right before. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you did your A levels.
Yeah.
And in fact, again in the book, you explained that when you were doing some of the exams, you felt very dazed and disorientated.
Yeah.
And you thought, it's not gone well. I'm
Yeah.
not going to go
Yeah.
to uni after all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just knew I hadn't done as well as I knew I could have done.
Okay. And at that stage, everyone was hoping, crossing their fingers, that it was going to be a one-off seizure.
Yeah, because they told us in the hospital it can happen to anyone through other illnesses or through severe stress, and I was the most stressed person I could ever imagine.
Oh, of course, because you had all your exams coming up.
But I've never been non-stressed, if that's a word.
No, that makes sense.
You've always been
a worry bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
She always says I came out worried.
Okay. Now, what happened next was that in July you had a second seizure.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you realised? I'll come to Jackie in a moment, your mum, and ask her. But how did you feel when you realised it wasn't a one-off occurrence?
I think I just thought, like, wow, this is here to stay. Whatever this is, it's not leaving after one time. It's here to stay, and it's going to change everything. So.
Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass over to Jackie and ask her, because obviously she's watching you, her daughter, her precious daughter, one of her precious daughters, because she's got three. So she's worried and concerned about you. So how was it, Jackie, for you when these two seizures occurred?
Absolutely horrendous. I just knew her life was never going to be the same. I was scared for her future. All the plans she had made, and I did myself hope it would only be one, but yeah, super scary.
Okay, super scary. Okay, so after that you had lots of tests, and you had that test we talked about before where all the wires were attached to your head, the EEG. Okay, and then we come to the after stage in your book, and that actually starts with you opening the envelope with your A-level results in it. Tell us about that.
Well, obviously you go to the school like everybody does, and I remember seeing people being super happy, seeing people being kind of a bit disappointed, and I just knew I was going to be that group, I suppose. And then I didn't do awful, but I didn't do enough, well enough, and I just knew I wasn't going to where the uni I wanted to go to. But I just kind of instantly went into, okay, I knew this was going to happen. What can I do now? And everyone was saying, take time off, don't go straight to uni, because this was the August and uni was starting in the September. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, no, I need to do something, otherwise I'll never do it. I just thought, if I don't go now, I'll never go.
Okay, that was a really sensible decision. And of course the other factor was that presumably now, because of the seizures, it meant you couldn't go away to uni. You had to stay at home.
I suppose I could have, but just me personally, I know myself.
Yeah.
And I just knew that wouldn't be the right to, obviously there's disabled students
Yes.
organisations and help and
Yeah.
things you can get for living away, but I knew it wasn't right for me.
Okay.
And for my family as well.
Okay.
I just thought they'd just be riddled with
yes,
worry
Jackie,
if I
you
was
would have
away.
been really worried, wouldn't you? Absolutely, yeah. Okay, now those 3 years, you did your degree in 3 years.
Yeah.
When you read the section in the book about your life at uni, it sounds so challenging, horrendous.
Yeah.
Tell us about what it was like.
I think I would never want to say that they weren't good. They were great in some ways. I don't think many people understand how bad it can be until you've seen it.
Yeah.
So I can tell people how awful it is to have a seizure, but they're not going to really see it, really like feel it until you're on the floor, I suppose.
Okay.
And then I don't think they realised how often I was going to have them.
How often did you have them when you were at uni? Just think back to, say, your first year.
First year, I suppose, it wasn't so bad at the very beginning. It was kind of, or I'd have them more at home, just coincidentally. But then I started having a lot more, and it most of the times I went in, it would end up in an ambulance.
Okay.
So,
And the second year of uni, you spent, according to your book, most of the time at home because the seizures were at least once a day.
yeah, at the very least.
And yet you still carried on.
Yeah, well, I wanted something out of it, and kind of by the time it was really getting to me so much, I'd already done a year and a half, and I just thought I've only got another year and a half.
Yes.
And then I'll have something from it rather than...
And I think what's amazing is, and it is such a big achievement, is that when you read the book, you say that sometimes in that second year, life was so tough. Sometimes you couldn't shower or walk up and down stairs, things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, now that led you to that awful time when you actually wanted to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, just tell us a little bit about that, if it's not too painful.
Well, I've had a lot of help, so I'm in a position to talk about it. But, so, basically, I've always been stressful. Sorry, I'm just laughing at that. I'm not laughing at this, I'm laughing at... because I'm boiling.
I was going to say, I'll get you some tissue if you want. You look really...
It's absolutely baking in the studio. Yes, that's right.
I'll get you some tissue while you carry
Okay,
on.
that's fine. Okay,
I'm
that's
trying to
fine.
put you
No.
Okay. So I've always been really stressful.
Yeah.
Always a worrier from a little child. I was just always concerned about what was happening and what other people were thinking and all that. And then obviously I started struggling with anxiety quite young, but I wouldn't say an anxiety disorder, just your teenage level of anxiety, I suppose.
Yes.
And then it got worse when I got this, obviously, because I never knew when I was going to have a seizure. And then when I went to uni, it was even worse. And then kind of, I did get to a point where I couldn't explain how I was feeling.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've always been talkative about feelings, but I just couldn't explain how badly I was feeling, and it just got to a point where I just thought if I wasn't here, everyone around me would be able to lead a much better life, would be able to. And I know, like now, I know that's not true, but then you can't see another way out. That is the way out of the way you feel.
Fortunately, one of your sisters came home.
Yeah.
And obviously stopped you. Which sister was that? Because it doesn't say in the book.
That is my older sister.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. And so that was obviously a great shock to the family. So I'm going to pass over to Jackie now and ask her what it was like at the time.
I didn't realise quite how bad she did feel at the time, but I was also very angry with her. It was just really, I don't know, it was just so hard for everybody. But
we didn't really have a proper conversation for a couple of months because she was so angry and I never understood why she was angry. I knew why she was upset. I didn't understand why she was angry. And then it's only been, say, the last couple of years that you've been like telling me why, really.
Okay. Now that led to the diagnosis of clinical depression, which in the book you describe, and I think it's really effective, you describe as being like a thief in the night.
Yeah.
And then you were eventually diagnosed with an anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
And then we come to we're sort of round about the third year of uni, and you decide initially that you're not going to go back.
Yeah, I think it was after that, and then I had a seizure, which I was having all the time, and when I came round, I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and said, I can't cope with it, I can't keep up with it.
Okay, now I'm going to again ask Jackie what it was like for her, because obviously you've achieved so much. You've done 2 years, the third year.
Yeah.
You don't want to go. What was it like for you? Tell us what it was like.
To be honest, it was heartbreaking, but I did see how much she was struggling. And then over the couple of weeks after that, I kind of said, well, you've not got long to go, so you could just try. And in the end, she did. She decided to give it a whirl.
Now, that third year, your tuition changed at uni, didn't it?
Yeah, I went, but I reverse psychology and I ended up going back.
I picked up on that and I thought that was actually quite funny in a way. You did really well there, Jackie.
Yeah, she was all very like, oh, you won't be able to go stationery shopping.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, yes.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
No, more than that, but yeah. So I went back, soon as I went back, seizures just straight away, and then they kind of said, you need to stay home, we need to come up with a plan that's more safe for you and more kind of, I don't really know, more scheduled, I guess, in what I can do with my health.
Okay, so your tuition changed, didn't it? Because you would have one-to-one sessions with your tutor, your learning mentor, and you. But of course, it was all the tuition that other students had, all crammed them into shorter sessions.
It was in a student therapy room that was slightly off campus, and I just used to have an hour with each tutor once a week if I could go and if they could fit it into their schedule. So sometimes it wasn't. They were really good. They tried as hard as they could, and so did I. But obviously sometimes that didn't even work. But for the majority, I'd say it did work, and it was kind of a godsend. And I think people think you're having one-to-one, like that's amazing. But there's no one to hide behind. You have to do every single piece of work because you're the only one getting asked questions.
Yes, you can't sit there and think and rely on the other students,
people.
Can you?
No, you have to know the answers. You have to be prepared for everything. There was literally nothing in the room. There was just 3 chairs because they were just so worried I'd hurt myself on everything that you can think of. So it was just very strange. It was never what I imagined uni to be, but it was what worked for me at the time.
And it did work, didn't it? Because tell us when you got your results. What classification degree did you get, Georgie?
I got a 2-1.
And that's fantastic.
That's really good, that, isn't it?
Yeah, but wait, you don't know the story that she told me before. Because what did you do when you got the results? What did you do?
First you get the kind of, I don't know what the transcript,
it's
academic
transcript.
transcript. So you get that. So I seen that and I was like, So, and I was just thinking, no, I'm not sure that's right, because I'd googled like how to work out from your results.
Oh, that's right, because they're all fiddly, the results, aren't they?
So I'd googled it. So I'd come to the conclusion that I was getting a 2-2. And was kind of settled with that. So then I was like, oh, don't know what to think of this. So I rang them and I was like, I need to know if this is a mistake, because I don't want to get happy and tell my family and my friends for you to say
bless.
oh, we made a mistake. And they were like, no mistake. And I was like, okay.
Now, Jackie, you must have been incredibly proud.
I was super proud, and it went up on the wall straight away that
Brilliant.
day.
Yeah. So when I got my certificate through, it was really nice because I knew it was right. And yeah.
Okay, now, graduation, which of course is a highlight of students' lives. You wanted to go,
Yeah.
and you were given permission to attend the part-time student ceremony in December when
Yeah.
there'd be fewer people there.
Yes.
And you went and you got dressed up and everything
Yeah.
else. But what happened then?
Well, I could just feel it from the bottom of my stomach starting to be really, really anxious. And I was just absolutely terrified. And at that point, I was in cognitive behavioural therapy as well, but I just couldn't. There was nothing that could have helped me, I don't think, on that day. And I felt really bad because I wanted to do it and I wanted them to see me do
Yes,
it.
yeah.
But I was just like, this is going to end up in a massive panic attack, or because I've stressed that much, I'll have a seizure.
Okay,
So-
but what did you do though? You did participate to some extent.
Yeah, well, we had the pictures done, the professional
Yeah.
pictures, and I did, when I seen everyone come out and throw the hat up, I just did it and had them take a picture of me.
Yes,
doing
every
it.
graduate, I think, has got that photo of them throwing their hat in the air.
I just had them take it, but yeah, I just couldn't do the ceremony.
Okay. Next phase of your life now, that's all about volunteering.
Yes.
And you tell us in the book that you started work at a school
Yeah.
helping 5 to 6 year olds. What was
Yeah.
that like?
It was amazing. I'd worked, I always say to people I'd worked with children since I was still a kid myself, because I was only quite young when I started helping in dance. So I was kind of used to it. It's the one thing I don't doubt about myself, is that I know I'm good with children. So even the kind of anxiety side of it, I knew I was going to be good at it. It was more anxiety towards adults, I think, that I was nervous about. But it was really good. It was something, I'd stopped dancing long before this point, and it was something completely different. And I thought maybe teaching would be something I'd fit into.
Okay. And then at the age of 21, you
Yeah.
went into a second phase of volunteering with children
Yeah.
because you actually started working at a hospital, didn't you?
Yeah.
As a ward buddy. Tell
Yeah.
us about that.
And this is the bit that really annoyed me about how things happen to you here. You know, when you think about the compassion that you get in most hospitals.
I know.
Now, you portrayed it in the book as they were almost dismissive of you in some way. So I want to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yeah,
So,
tell us about the
tell
kids
us
you were
about
looking
it.
after, first of all.
Yeah, of course,
So,
yeah.
so it was very thorough, like the whole process, quite long-winded in terms of applications and meetings, and I told everyone about my health because I didn't want to start. I knew I was going to love it, so I didn't want to start for them to be like, actually, you can't do it.
Okay.
So I was very like, I don't want to start if that's what it's going to be. I'd rather just not do it at all.
Now, these 4 kids were very special kids, weren't they? Because
Yeah.
what were they undergoing?
They were on dialysis for, I don't know if it was all kidney failure, but I knew at least 2 of them were on kidney failure, renal failure. So
Yeah, okay.
it was really sad, but really inspiring at the same time. Got to know their parents, got to know them.
Yeah.
It was hard to write because in no way do I want to make people come across bad.
Okay, well, what we're going to do now is you had a great relationship with the kids on dialysis. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a short break, and then
Okay.
we're going to come back and find out what the adults were like with you. Okay.
Okay, we'll be back with Georgie in around about 3 or 4 minutes. Just a quick weather update for you first and foremost. Oh, brilliant track that. The Lonely Goat with Julie Andrews from the film The Sound of Music, of course. And that's one of Georgie's favourite films. Right. And she's giggling away in the corner there. Back in the studio with Heather Smith and, of course, Georgie Peterson and her mum Jackie. And talking about the book Freaks Like Us. Heather, where were we up to? You're up to volunteering and hospital.
Absolutely, but before that, I'm intrigued by your choice of music. Tell us about The Sound of Music. And then we'll go back to your volunteering. volunteering?
It's just, well, I like all, like, recent music, don't get me wrong, but The Sound of Music is my favourite musical movie, always has been, and I just love it and just will rewatch it, and my sister gets really mad, and she gets really mad.
Oh, so your mum gets mad too?
Yeah.
Well, same as me. It's just so I can't
It's
believe
so
it. And
lovely.
it's
I
my
just
favourite
love the
film as
film.
well. You know,
Aw.
I
and
just love it.
we're decades apart. You know,
Yeah.
isn't it funny how it sticks?
Yes.
That, you
Yeah.
know, that one film that
Yeah.
was brought out in the '60s
I
is
love
still
musicals,
to this day.
but that's my favourite musical movie.
Absolutely,
Okay,
and mine
okay.
too. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, Heather, back to you.
Right, back to
you.
volunteering now. We said that you had great rapport with the children, particularly
Yeah.
with Emily.
Yeah.
But tell us about the staff. What was going on behind the scenes?
So it was just, I just started feeling, first of all, nobody knew about the condition, even though, like, through the application process, I'd told everybody. I just didn't want anybody to not be informed, and then it sounds as though, like, you just didn't tell people so that you could be a volunteer type thing. But nobody knew when I got to the ward. And then it was very busy and very focused on the kids, as it should be, 100%. But nobody had time for me to explain it. And then as the time went on, it started to get very picky. Like, obviously the kids can't move because they're on dialysis. So
Yeah.
you have to imagine things to do, or you have to bring things they can do, or whatever. And you get to know the parents as well. And I just remember, like, the parents would say, "Did you see this documentary last night? It was medical." And I would say, yeah or no, or we'd talk about it. And then I'd get kind of told off for that because they said, like, about false hope and things like that, which I didn't think I was doing. I thought I was just answering a question. I think it'd be quite rude to just shut them down when they're trying to have
yes.
when they're trying to have a conversation
Yes.
with you. Another time, Emily's parents asked me about my condition,
Yeah.
and I was answering, and they told me about that and about how you can't put your problems onto the parents of sick children, which I understand, but again, they're openly discussing their child's health with me. I didn't want to be like, well, I'm not telling you anything
You were
about
just
mine.
responding.
Plus, the other thing that I thought was that if I do have a seizure, they're going to look to their parents for support, for help and understanding about what just happened. So they deserve to know in a way. But I think there was just a big miscommunication. I think it was just I came at the wrong time. There was a big change in staff in the volunteering side, so maybe there was just the message wasn't passed on from department to department.
But you were even told off, weren't you, for drinking lots of water, which, of course, you have to drink lots of
Yeah.
water because of your condition.
Yeah, well, one is that I have to be overly hydrated anyway, but also one of the side effects of one of my medication is that I get very hot very quickly, as you can see. So I have to drink more for that side of it, but they could drink very limited amounts. So they were kind of saying you can't drink water in front of them.
Mm-hmm. So things...
But, it was just a really difficult one for me to navigate because I didn't want to in any way come across rude. I don't want to now, as though I'm saying, like, they're really bad, the nurses or whoever. It's absolutely nothing like that. I have tons of respect for the job they do and everything. I just think it was the wrong time.
Okay, so things got really hard for you.
Yeah.
Jackie, what was it like? Because obviously you will have seen Georgie struggling at this particular time.
Yeah, I do think it was really sad to because I know she's really, really good with the children, but there was too much anxiety and I could feel it when we were going on our way to the hospital anyway. So she just took a step back and decided it was best to leave.
Okay, so you made that hard decision to leave.
Yeah.
But the incredible thing about you, Georgie, is that you didn't give up volunteering, did you? Okay, it didn't work out there, but what did you do next?
When I carried on at the school.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you went back to the school,
Yeah.
but then unfortunately things began to change there too with the
Again,
staff.
with the adults.
Yes, not the children.
Yeah.
So what happened there at school?
So I was having seizures. They knew, they'd seen them. And then I had this one, and my mum came to get me. Didn't need an ambulance that time. My mum came to get me, and she told me that there was just loads of staff just like stood around drinking tea and chatting away. When really, unless it's an absolutely horrendous one, I only need one person to shield my head. So that was a time when I was a bit like, wonder what's going on here. And then a time after, it was one of the times after that, I had one, came home, and my mum, they actually called my mum, not me, and kind of basically said she can't come here anymore. And that was the...
Okay, I'm going to pass over to Jackie because we are coming up to the news very shortly. Tell us about that conversation with the head teacher, Jackie.
That wasn't a very nice conversation, and I did get very angry. And I did say to her, you knew when you took her on that she had a disability. I had a really hard time that week because she was so excited about the next week going in. So it was really hard.
Okay, so I'm going to pass back to Steve now because we're coming up to the news, and there's going to be more from Georgie after the news.
Okay, well, thanks so far, Georgie and Jackie and Heather, of course, for taking over my show this morning. But no, all joking apart, that's what we wanted. This is what we wanted.